Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The next one is a pro-revenge story. My name is Jack and I was stationed at a Navy base in Virginia during my time in service. One of my good friends, Ryan, was in training with me to become a sonar technician. Ryan was a brilliant guy and would have been an amazing asset to the Navy with his technical skills, but he struggled a bit with the physical requirements. Our instructors, Peters and Wallace, were tough as nails and seemed to have it out for Ryan. They'd constantly mock him for being out of shape and threaten to kick him out of training. It crushed Ryan's confidence. One day during a training run, Ryan hurt his knee pretty badly. The doctor put him on light duty to recover, but Peters and Wallace ignored the doctor's orders and forced Ryan to keep up with full training. They called him weak and pathetic for being injured. Ryan's mental health started declining rapidly. He had a meeting scheduled with the base chaplain to talk, but when he told Peters and Wallace he'd be missing training, they went ballistic. They called him a coward and promised to make his life a living hell if he went. So Ryan canceled the meeting. That night, his girlfriend broke up with him out of the blue. I think it was all too much for Ryan, and he felt completely alone. Around 3 a.m., I got a strange call from Ryan's number. I heard muffled noises, but no one spoke. Figuring it was a pocket dial, I hung up and went back to sleep. If only I had realized something was wrong. The next morning, Ryan's ex-girlfriend called me panicking, saying Ryan was in the hospital for attempting suicide. A few buddies and I rushed to see him. The chaplain was just leaving and gave us a look I'll never forget. Pure rage. Ryan survived, but just barely. The doctor said he nearly bled out after slitting his own throat. When we asked Ryan what happened, he told us how Peters and Wallace had pushed him over the edge. A week later, the two instructors were gone, dishonorably discharged for their conduct, ruining two men's lives and nearly costing Ryan his. Last I heard, Ryan recovered fully and became a police officer back home. He found happiness again, and I couldn't be more grateful he survived the darkest time in his life. As for Peters and Wallace, I hope karma catches up for how they treated Ryan. He was a good man who just needed support. Some people shouldn't be in positions of power. The first one is an entitled people story. Growing up in the countryside, I've always had a deep appreciation for firearms. My grandpa taught me to shoot when I was just a kid, and it's been one of my favorite hobbies ever since. So when I turned 21 and could finally buy my own handgun, you bet I was at the store that very day. I decided to go with a Smith & Wesson M&P 9mm. It had great reviews online for being reliable and accurate. Plus, it just felt right in my hands the moment I picked it up. I excitedly filled out the paperwork and passed the background check without an issue. That shiny new pistol was mine. Once I got it home, I spent hours cleaning and inspecting every nook and cranny. I read the owner's manual front to back twice. Safety was my top priority with owning a firearm. My grandpa always said, "A gun is only as safe as its owner." I took those words to heart. After months of practicing at the shooting range, I felt confident enough to start carrying my handgun for self-defense. But I only carried it concealed, and I made sure to brush up on all the laws first. The last thing I wanted was to accidentally break a law just because I didn't know better. Anyway, most days carrying it went by without a hitch. But there was this one day at the grocery store that still haunts me to this day. I was in the bread aisle, minding my own business, when a kid no older than 10 came running down the aisle. He was giggling and chasing his brother with a baguette like a sword. They were being pretty rowdy, but hey, they're just kids having fun. At least that's what I thought until their mother showed up, screaming at the top of her lungs. "Connor, Jason, you put that bread down right now before I beat your asses," she shrieked. The boys immediately stopped in their tracks, faces draining of color. Then the mom turned on me, jabbing her finger into my chest aggressively. "You think it's funny seeing my kids act up like little hellions?" she snarled. I was so shocked I could barely stammer out, "No ma'am, I didn't." She cut me off. "Save it, you millennials are so irresponsible. I bet you don't even know how to discipline kids properly." Then her eyes lit up as if she had a brilliant idea. In a sweet voice totally unlike the one she just used on her kids, she said, "Say you wouldn't happen to have a firearm on you, would you? Maybe you could teach my Connor here how to shoot. God knows he needs some tough love. It would make him behave in no time." My jaw just about hit the floor. This woman wanted me to hand my gun to her misbehaving child? Was she out of her mind? That would be so illegal and dangerous. I tried to be diplomatic. "I'm afraid I can't do that, ma'am. I don't think that would be appropriate." Wrong answer. The pleasant expression on her face morphed into pure rage. "How dare you?" she shrieked. "My boy deserves to learn from a real man, not some weak pansy like you." And with that, she tried grabbing my hip exactly where my concealed pistol was. We struggled for a few seconds before I managed to shove her off of me. Before I knew it, she came at me again, this time clawing at my face while screeching obscenities. I held her off as gently as I could while calling for help. Employees and customers watched the scene unfold in shock. Finally, security guards rushed over and restrained the woman. She was still kicking and screaming like a banshee even as police slapped cuffs on her and hauled her off. Turns out she had quite a long rap sheet. I gave my statement to police and declined to press charges. That woman had bigger problems than a simple assault charge could fix. I never saw that crazy lady again, thank God. But it taught me an important lesson about standing my ground, even against a seemingly harmless soccer mom. I sure won't be letting anyone get their hands on my firearm anytime soon. The next one is a petty revenge story. I work at a rather famous home supply and maintenance store. I won't say the name, just in case, but to set the scene, a month or so ago, Karen and her husband came in to buy an appliance. They happened to come on a very busy day, and we only had 2 people in appliances, one of whom was going on her lunch. Well, apparently Karen wasn't happy that a couple of men who'd already been waiting were served ahead of her and pitched a tantrum, even going so far as to go up to the girl leaving for her lunch, who was no longer in uniform, was talking to another employee, and berating her for ignoring her. The girl told her multiple times she wasn't on the clock, and Karen informed her it didn't matter. She would help her right then. The girl told her she could wait or take her business elsewhere, and went about her business. This apparently pissed off Karen and her husband, as he proceeded to call customer service. I happened to be covering their desk, and began yelling at me that he was a GD man and that we were going to serve other men before his wife, we would ducking serve him first. I laughed at him, said that's not how things work, and hung up the phone. We don't take abuse at my store, I definitely refuse to, and the managers generally support us in that. The funny part, our town has a local Facebook page where you can post reviews and events, and Karen decided to make a massive post about what happened, only she actually didn't. She twisted it so that it seemed she'd been purposely ignored. She hadn't, she just didn't want to wait in line. Denied service, she wasn't, she'd confronted and cursed out a teenage employee who was off the clock, and she and her husband had been verbally abused by every employee in the store. They had spoken to the girl and to me, and neither of us abused them, we were both abused. Of course, at first she got sympathy from a lot of women of the same mentality, a lot of "no one wants to work anymore" comments. But one of our cashiers happened to be told about it and showed me I'm petty. I'll admit it beforehand, but I made a fake Facebook account. I don't do social media much beyond lurking on Reddit, and joined the town's page. Needless to say, I first commented in explicit detail everything that actually happened, including direct quotes from the other girl. Then, to sink the "fuck you Karen" knife a little deeper, I copied my post and replied to every comment on her post, "This isn't actually what happened was insert comment here." Within moments, the entire town turned on her. Hundreds of comments calling her a liar and a horrid person. The next morning, the post was gone and she's never returned to our store. Was I a bit of a Karen myself? Maybe. But when it comes to my fellow employees, I tend to fight petty fire with petty fire. And thanks to this situation and several more since then, I've become the go-to for dealing with Karens and rude customers when my coworkers can't get a hold of a manager. No way this can end badly, right? Edit. Dear gods at the amount of people asking what GD man meant. I didn't say it, people. It was a quote. I'm assuming he was self-censoring goddamn man, though I have no idea why. He didn't have any issues using any other profanities, which he made clear. Second edit. I'm not going to be commenting anymore on anyone guessing where my place of employment might be. Sorry, mate. Narrowing down the list. And while my Reddit is fairly anonymous, and the Facebook post proving what happened was deleted, one of my coworkers has already found my post, and 2 of my assistant managers have now heard the story. While so far all I've gotten are basically "cheers, lad. If it makes it back to the wrong person that my post implements my store, I could lose my shite paycheck." The next one is a malicious compliance story. I work as an account manager for a food distribution company. I have an NDA, so I can't disclose the type of materials or type of project, so that will be relatively vague, but the story is still good. Okay, so we work with a chain account and service all of their locations in our state. This is a relatively small but global chain that is historically very challenging to work with. Management is aggressive, pushy, just not nice. Our company is a tiny, family-owned and operated company full of nice goofballs. We don't take things too seriously, provide great service, and put up with honestly way too much from them. We're their contracted distributor. There are a few items in the contract that no one follows and hasn't followed for years, one of those being monthly pricing audits. No one from their corporate had ever asked for it. But we never brought it up because our pricing is not always consistent with the contracted price we are supposed to charge the locations. Reason being is we're often able to get a product for cheaper elsewhere and also sell to our other accounts outside of this chain. So we're not always compliant, but it's always for the benefit of the customer. Well, our direct contact at the company quit, and the head honcho over there stepped in to take her place. He insisted that we begin sending monthly pricing audits, per the contract. Mind you, this guy is just nasty. I've had to drive around to every location in the state to recover a product the locations use less than one case a year of, because they wanted to teach us a lesson for running out of something one time. They assign us complaint forms that I have to go into their site and resolve the complaint. It's usually about something stupid. X. You said that you were going to receive a product on this day, but you didn't tell us if you got it yet. Please write out your 5-step action plan and solution to being better partners to us. So anyways, we dragged out the audits for a while, but were unable to avoid it, so we brought up another item in the contract that had been neglected in attempts to be like, if you're going to enforce this, we're going to enforce the whole contract. It stated that if we were carrying an item for this account that moved less than X number of cases a week, that we would be able to charge a storage fee per month that it sat in our warehouse. They said yes, we need to be following the contract 100%. Well, we found that almost 90% of the products did not move X number of cases a week and were eligible for a storage fee to be added on. The language stated that we were to also backcharge for the months that it sat in the warehouse that we did not charge storage, which meant that there were items that had a price increase of $30 per case. That's ridiculous, especially for a restaurant in our state. We alerted the company and said, hey, while this would be more money for us, we really don't want to do that to our customers. They said it didn't matter and we had to follow the contract, and if any stores complained, I was to send them directly to their corporate rep. So the updated contract pricing went into effect, effectively bumping up pricing on their most popular items by about 10%, and the storage pricing by about 30% on their lowest moving items, increasing overall pricing by about 25%. Stores are livid. It totally sucks for them and I feel super badly about it. But it's a result of their corporate being a holes. The best part is now I get these complaint things about pricing all day long and I just get to tag their corporate representatives to deal with it instead. I have less work and we make about 25% more off an account. They wanted us to follow the contract, right? The next one is an entitled people story. This is actually something that happened to me over 20 years ago, but for some reason it just popped into my head, and since it fits here, well, here we are. When my now ex-husband was stationed at an Air Force base along the Gulf Coast, I worked in the layaway customer service catalog order gift wrapping department at the back of the base exchange, BX, there and had already been there for over a year. I was very well liked by both my coworkers and supervisors. Usually at this department, it's just kind of walk in and get what you need, as it's usually not a super busy department. However, beginning not long after Halloween and on into the new year, it get horribly busy, and at that point it was required everyone pull a number from the ticket dispenser at the entryway to the department. Once the holiday season began, this was absolutely a hard, fast rule, no matter what. One weekend day, we were wall-to-wall people, and from the moment we opened the registers, we were busy. It got so bad we had to call a couple people over from other departments for the sole purpose of ringing through layaways so a couple people in our department could do nothing but gift wrap and grab layaways from the back that were being paid in full. I was at the register that was doing payments only on layaways. Not even PIFs, just payments. I'm waiting on a customer when I happen to glance up and see a woman walk through the entryway and come straight to my register. No number grabbed, nothing. Just walked up straight to me and interrupted me with the customer I was currently assisting. Her, you need to help me immediately. I'm in a rush and can't wait very long. Me. Ma'am, while I can appreciate that, everyone here has somewhere else they'd like to be. If you'd just grab a numbered ticket there. Her. interrupting me. I don't have time for that. You need to just assist me now. At this point, I'd finished up with the customer I was helping and turned to click on the now being served, which was the number I called out. Number 75. Next customer, #75, please. Her, now turning purple, she's so mad. Excuse me, you need to help me now. Do you know who my husband is? Me. Unless he's number 75, it really doesn't matter. As if this isn't enough of a mic drop, this is where it gets really good. She's now apoplectic and demands to speak with my manager. Fair enough. Let's go get her from the back where she's pulling PIF, layaways, and counting cash to be deposited in the main safe because our registers are getting full. Me to supervisor. I'm paraphrasing because it's been so long ago. Mary, this customer walked in, didn't take a number, came right to my register, and demanded I take care of her ahead of a couple dozen customers who patiently waited. I asked her to pull a number, but she refused and then asked me if I knew who her husband was. I should tell you I told her unless he was #75, it didn't really matter. Mary comes out to the registers and walks up to the woman and says, "Ma'am, I'm this employee's supervisor, and she tells me you'd like to talk to me." Entitled customer, yes, this. My supervisor held her hand up and cut off the woman and says, "Ma'am, I'd love to help you right this second, but as you can see, we're really busy. If you could just pull a number, I'll speak with you when it's your turn." At that, Mary turned around and walked back to the back and pulled PIF layaways. I wish I could describe the range of emotions that this customer experienced before she finally turned on her heel and left in a huge huff. Then, to add insult to injury, just as the woman was departing, another customer, I have no idea who, said loud enough for the room to hear, "Get back to us when your husband is more than a lieutenant." Best customer service day ever. The next one is an entitled parent story. When this first started, I was 14 and taking Japanese, and was also one of the top students. So a guy, entitled kid, asked me to help him on his Japanese presentation. I did, because why not? I met EK in the library every lunchtime for about a week to help him finish it, and thought that would be the end of it. Nope. EK developed a crush on me, but I wasn't interested. I told him that, but he didn't want to give up. He started telling me how rich his parents were, and how he could get anything he wants. To which I just told him to fuck off. EK ended up stalking me for 2 years. He knew where I lived, what time I woke up and went to bed. He knew what bus I caught, when I would get on and off the bus, and even knew my entire timetable at school. Naturally, I was freaked out, but it just got worse. For those 2 years, EK also mentally and sexually abused me. He was telling me how if I didn't hang out with him, he was going to kill himself, and that it would be all my fault. I was young and scared, so I didn't want to go to the police. I was scared for my life, so for 2 years I put up with him, until I finally had the courage to speak up last year. I went to the police and they told me they would look into it. I also contacted the school, telling them about his threats to kill himself, so they got in contact with his parents. Good God, Satan is real. These entitled parents are literal demons. After the school got in contact with them, they blamed me for EK's mental instability, because I wasn't dating him and I refused to be his girlfriend. They were saying I am selfish because their poor baby deserves love, and he is too good for me anyway. Then the police got in contact with them. I was very fortunate, as other girls from my school had come forward to the police saying that EK had abused them too, and there was even evidence with screenshots, so the police had to make a move. They told the EPs about the abuse and he was put on the child sex offenders list. They were so fucking wild. The EPs approached me and my parents after school one day, and the following conversation ensued. Characters. Mum, my mum. Dad, my dad ED, entitled Dad EM, entitled Mum. EK, entitled Kid, me obviously. EM, hello, you are Miss Cat's parents, yes? Mum. Yes, we are, and I am guessing you are EK's parents? ED, yes, we just needed to talk to you about your daughter's false accusations on our son. I just stared at them in disbelief whilst my mother is fuming, and my dad speaks up. Dad, I'm sorry, did you say false accusations? ED. Yes, how dare she accuse our EK of such horrid things? Me. I'm sorry, how dare I? How dare you raise such a hideous person? EM and ED stand there for a second before EM gets REALLEOY mad. EM, it is girls like you that make this society so sensitive and easily offended. My poor boy did nothing wrong. It is stupid that boys can't express themselves in the way they feel nowadays. He just wanted you to go out with him and you wouldn't, so it is your fault that this happened. At this point, I am crying hysterically, and my parents are absolutely disgusted that a grown woman would speak to a 16-year-old like that. Mom, are you hearing yourself? How do you think sexual abuse is okay? It is no joke, and you should have raised your son better. The fact that you are blaming my daughter for your son's actions just goes to show that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Don't you ever approach us again, and keep your sorry excuse of a son away from my daughter. My parents then walked away with me in tow whilst EM and EP were screaming profanities at us. I haven't spoken to EK since this all went down. He tries to approach me at school sometimes, but I just walk away before he can get to me. To this day, I am still sickened by the fact that they thought it was okay for EK to be sexually abusing girls. That he was just expressing himself. Fuck off. Literally fuck off. I am glad that no one got seriously harmed. I just wish both EK and his parents got harsher punishments, but maybe I am asking too much. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.